Hey everybody, this is Jim Riley and I'm coming to you from my Drum Dojo studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Today's lesson is really one of the most important lessons I could ever teach you, and it's going to be on Drumset Ergonomics. This is a question I get all the time concerning my setup and how it evolved to the point where it is now. Our lesson is going to focus on reprioritizing your setup in a way that's going to help you execute your role as a drummer much more efficiently. And we're going to have fun with today's lesson, so bear with me. The first thing I need to do is get us to a more traditional drum setup, so let's do that. So here we are, behind a more traditional drum set. We've got 12, 13, 16, 22, and a 14-inch snare. Now stop me if this sounds familiar. You go out to your gig, you see the stage. In the middle of the stage is a drum riser, 8x8. The first thing you do is you take your bass drum and you put it right in the middle of that 8x8 riser, facing directly forward so that everyone can see your logos and all that stuff. But the inherent problem with that is if your bass drum is facing forward and your hi-hat is over to the left, that means that your body is actually oriented off to the left. So if you want to look center back at the audience, you've got to twist your body to do that. Now, it's not a big deal, but to me, the idea of living my whole drum career twisted around back at the audience just doesn't seem like a great idea. The bigger problem with this setup is the ride cymbal, figuring out where to place it. We've got two options. We've got here or here, neither of which are very good options for me. With the ride cymbal up here, I feel like I've got to reach too far. And with the ride cymbal in that first position, I feel like I've got to contort myself in such a weird way to play the ride cymbal. It makes me ask the question, is your drum set helping you accomplish your musical goals? And that leads me to the most important question, and that is, what is your primary role as a drummer? And for me, it's to keep time. And so, with that in mind, why are we relegating the ride cymbal to basically just wherever we can fit it, like it's an afterthought on the drum set, when it's one of the most important timekeeping instruments on the entire kit? So at that point, that's when I decided I just need to reevaluate and reprioritize my drum set. And I just decided, you know what, I need to start fresh. So I really did this. I cleared the drum set out of the room. It was actually that drum set right there, leaving myself only a drum throne to contemplate the first question, which is, what is the best throne height for me? I didn't want it to be too high or too low. I just wanted to get the throne to a height where I felt comfortable sitting. So that's what I did. I experimented until I found a spot where I said, you know, I could sit here and do paperwork, I could sit here and watch a movie at this height, and I feel very comfortable. So the next thing I did was I added the snare drum. Now the most important thing to consider when figuring out the right snare drum height for you is whether you're giving yourself full access to the surface of the drum. What I mean is, a lot of younger players tend to make the mistake of positioning the snare drum too low, which forces you to alter your technique just to get to a position where you're able to play it. So what I suggest is making sure that the rim of the snare drum actually clears your legs so that you're able to play a left or right rim shot with no problems. Now so far, this is not really revolutionary. I will note, however, that I am oriented perfectly straight at you, as is the snare drum. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is the resting position of my right and left foot. Neither one of them is facing exactly forward. As a matter of fact, if you remember, we had the bass drum centered before. So now that the snare drum is centered, the bass drum will not be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the bass drum to match the resting angle of my feet. Now this may look different from the way that you set up your drum set, but trust me, when you get behind it and you realize that your snare drum is perfectly centered and you've got your right foot and your left foot in a position that they would already be in, you're going to be the most comfortable playing time that you've ever been. So the next thing we need to do is solve that ride cymbal problem. And since that's our next priority in terms of timekeeping, that is the next thing we are going to position. There it is. And that is such a comfortable spot for me. I can go right from the hi-hat to the ride cymbal. Super comfortable, and it makes my job as a timekeeper that much easier. Now the rest is pretty much easy. We're going to fill everything in around this. On this particular setup, I've got 2 toms, and so I'm going to set those toms up right in front of me. Then I'm going to fill in the floor tom here. Add my crashes, and now you've got a drum set that is perfectly prioritized to play time. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in a future lesson. Till then, keep practicing.